work-life balance, running, and staying focused with goals and habits, right? So the habit is simple, the routine is simple. I just got done stretching, went through that block, really working on trying to loosen up that IT band, which feels tight for me, and my quads after yesterday's 8-mile run, my quads feel a little bit sore. So I'm not really 100% sure how much I've got today. The other thing that has really affected today's focus is that sleep was disrupted last night. So my youngest son was up 2 times last night, not able to sleep and having a rough time. And obviously that impacts my well-being and my sleep, which is fine. But today's one of those days where I'm gonna make sure that I get out there to do what I can, but how much and to what degree, remains to be seen. My intention is to go out for about a 4 to 5 mile run, somewhere in that 36 to 45 minute range, just as sort of a recovery run from yesterday's more intermediate or longer run for me, way to recover and get ready for the week. 2 things I'm thinking about in this particular video that are on my mind is, one, the importance of my habit and routine leading up to this. The sort of cue that I needed was the idea of going up and stretching first, right? So that cue triggers that thought pattern for me that I'm about to go out and set off on a run. The second thing is really focusing on not comparing yourself and going down the rabbit hole of all these other videos and all this other content that's out there with these runners that are trying to scale back and tailor their thoughts for what it means to be in the stages of running, and all fantastic videos. But a lot of times you could watch this content and you could be sitting there thinking like, I'm not doing enough, or I don't do it that way, or I don't have the proper gear, and you start to do that in your head. And you've got to find a way to eliminate that distraction, and that's one of the things that I'm focusing on today. So today is a quick, what do we got, like about a 40 degree kind of day, maybe less than 40. And so today is all about shorts and a few layers and some gloves to get started, which I'm sure I'll shed. So here we go. Okay, just finished that run. About 5 miles, feeling pretty good. No complaints. Brought the gloves along, and felt like I sort of needed them for the beginning. The run was interesting because it wasn't as cold as I anticipated, but I did feel that I needed an extra layer regardless. And the thing about running here in this area is the winds can really get you. So we're at like 14 miles an hour out of the west right now, so there's a little bit of a headwind on most of my run, which made it challenging. But again, the goal was to go out, really get a recovery run in between 4 and 5 miles, 36 to 45 minutes. And mission accomplished, feeling pretty good about that. So on that run, I mentioned I was thinking about this idea of comparison. And early on, I think 2 things: comparing my sort of creating content and worrying about what other people think, and then also this idea of comparing my running or my running work to that of others. And to be honest with you, those are 2 big traps, and I've worked myself almost completely out of those areas because I feel like they were really sort of weighing me down to the point where I would consume content of others and look at their runs or the work they were putting in, and you look at somebody like as talented as Nick Bare and the work that he's put in from a triathlon and these sub 3:30 marathons and things like that, or him trying to qualify for Boston. And I love that content, I really do. But what I can't do is compare myself to him. We both have different jobs and careers. We both have different family structures and things like that. So the variables aren't the same. The one commonality is that we both are after these fitness goals. So what I can do is leverage somebody like him or others to kind of pull in the inspiration to say, hey, look, he's ripping off these, 7 or 8 mile runs at like a, 7-8 minute pace, whatever. I'm nowhere near that. I know that. But what I can be is inspired to continue to document my journey and continue to push my limits and what I'm possible, or what's possible for me. So I think that's sort of my mindset of getting away from the comparing what I do and how I do it to others, and really being mindful of pulling in the inspiration of what's possible from somebody else, using that as fuel and motivation to say, what can I pull off? So it nowhere becomes a comparison game, because the comparison game can be a really defeating process for somebody that's trying to push themselves either in fitness or push themselves professionally or personally in that self-development space. I feel like comparing is a really big trap that I think we have to be mindful of. Even so much as with the content creation, as I mentioned earlier, me taking a step out of my comfort zone of teaching, and primarily literacy or teaching at the elementary level, and also instructional coaching and working with adults, that content is safe for me, right? Like I feel pretty good and knowledgeable talking about that. The idea of creating content in another space where I don't feel like I have as much to go off of, like running or fitness goals in this case, feels it's terrifying. It's honestly terrifying to do what I'm doing right now. But I think the thing that pushes me is that I'm not comparing myself to, these beautiful content creators out there with drones and these amazing cameras, right? I'm just using what I have on hand to document my learning. And I also have the approach with this is that it's gonna get better. I will continue to get better. My friend Adam and I talk about this a lot. The idea of just creating as much as you possibly can, documenting your learning and your process, and then seeing where it takes you. That could be cool in and of itself. And I don't know where it's gonna take me a year from now, but hopefully we can look back on this and say, hey, told you so, right? So keep creating. So the idea of staying away from comparisons, both in your fitness goals, personal goals, and anything you're doing professionally, seems like big work to take on. But that was sort of my focus on my run today. Hopefully you got some value out of this. I appreciate you watching.